Aaron Lee. Hi, Peter. Here's a quote from Lewis from Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying. Could you please give your thoughts? Aaron Lee. The car, is more on a knife edge than ever, and it doesn't like it when you brake late and deep and make a V of it. You have to brake early and run off and roll the speed in, and I hate that. That's just not me. It's not my way of driving. Well, that's exactly. When he's talking about brake late and make a V of it, that's a short corner. Okay, he's describing it as a V because that's all he's ever probably known it as, and he doesn't listen to me about short corners. Why would he? But I call them short corners because in reality what Lewis is doing when he says he's braking late, what he's doing is extending the straight into a slow rotation point, a slower rotation point than say Carlos Sainz would have, and then getting along a nice extended straight exit as well. So that is what he's saying. The car is on a knife edge. You can't really do that. You can't short corner the car, and indeed you have to brake early and roll the speed in. What he's saying is doing it the way Carlos Sainz does it, having to brake in a straight line. He feels he's braking earlier because the straight's a bit shorter, and then he just has to be very careful about getting the speed absolutely right at the turn-in point, which is a wider turn-in point than he would naturally want to do. And that's just not me. Well, there you go. It's exactly what I've always been saying. He is a short corner driver, and it's very difficult to do that in the Mercedes as it is. It's so knife edgy. Some races he can, but not really. And that's why I've said from day one, somebody asked a question last year, I think, about why Lewis has got quite a wide entry and he doesn't turn in as early as Max. I said, well, he does. That is his natural thing. But ever since 2022, he hasn't been able to do that. And the only way to get the Mercedes to work is to do a much wider entry and get the tyres right. And it's too knife edgy to try and do short corners. Okay, your final point is I was slightly confused by the quote in the context of usual comments of Lewis's driving style. Is the V he mentioned the same as well? No, it's not. And you might say the same as other drivers who are, Jean Alesi is another good example, Jacques Lafitte are two other that I often mention as classic V drivers. No, Lewis is not a V driver in the way Sebastian Vettel is, but he extends the straights in the way Sebastian Vettel does. What Vettel doesn't have is Lewis's ability to manipulate the car when he's approaching or looking for the appropriate moment to rotate it. And I've often said that is what absolutely encapsulates the brilliance of a Max Verstappen or a Lewis Hamilton or a Charles Leclerc when Charles focused. It's knowing the moment of the least possible downside to rotate the car. And everything they do in the approach to that moment is all to do with manipulation of the brake pedal pressure, the throttle and the steering load. It's not just get down to a slow point. There we are, that's the V, yank on the steering, slow minimum speed, now let's accelerate. It's not that, that's what Vettel does. I'm being slightly brutal about it, but that's basically what Vettel does. No. In that moment, that's where Lewis comes into his own. Vettel definitely has the feel for extending the straights. What he doesn't have, in my opinion, is the feel for how to rotate the car the way Lewis does mid-corner, and that's why he was getting destroyed by Daniel Ricciardo in that last year at Red Bull when they took the downforce out of the back of the car. So without that, Vettel was completely lost because that's all he ever knew that's all he does know is that V rotation, and it's if he doesn't have a back end, he's completely lost. Whereas Lewis can do it, but everything is so knife edgy on the Mercedes at the moment, and it changes from lap to lap. That's what knife edgy means, corner to corner almost. And he can't predict what it's going to do. He can't get any feel through the car. And he probably has to run it stiffer than he wants because it's the only way to get the car to work with the ride height, and he can't get enough feel through it. And so that's exactly what the problem is. But don't confuse Vettel's V, mid-corner V, with a Lewis Hamilton rotation or a Max Verstappen rotation. Completely different things.